I'm Dennis Wilson, and I live in a house built about 1970. And for a number of years, after crawling around in the attic a bit, I realized that there wasn't a whole lot of insulation there. I guess it was what they call builder's bats, which are around 3 inches or so to start, but they compress down over time. So I knew that we needed to get more insulation because I had seen in some other houses a lot more fiberglass insulation, 8 or 10 inches. I started looking into the New Jersey clean energy programs and what it would take to get an audit done to test the house for air infiltration and to decide how much upgrading we need to do in the insulation level in the attics. After talking with CIEL, Ciel Power is a certified company that does home energy efficiency testing and upgrading. So I decided, all right, let me move forward and get the what's called the blower door test, which is used to measure how much air infiltration can come around doors and windows and penetrations in the walls. That test confirmed that there was a lot of air moving through the house when it got windy. Certainly needed to address that, and it was an interesting process. So since I work from home, I was able to see it as the testing was done. And one of the first things that they do is mount a false door, I guess, in the front door. After closing all the windows and doors, the fan tries to exhaust the air in the house. You can tell from that level of negative pressure and how much air infiltration there is in the house. So it confirmed that there was too much, as you would find in an old house. I think the house was built in 1971, so that needed to get addressed. The survey of the house was put into a report that captured what steps would be needed to upgrade the insulation level to something closer to a modern house. We went back and forth for a couple of months on getting my level of understanding, so I knew what was going to need to be done. So then we decided to go ahead because New Jersey has a incentive program to make homes more efficient, because by making homes more efficient, you use less electricity for your heating or air conditioning, less fossil gas for heating your home in the winter, and the tests that are done also identify whether there's any air leakages around furnaces or hot water heaters or such. After we modified the report a couple of times, I was satisfied that it was going to be a good investment because the state provides a grant if you meet certain criteria on upgrading the energy efficiency of the home. And then if you want to do some other things that are more optional, there's zero interest loans from the participating utilities. In this case, it was PSE&G. Finally, the day came, I think it was in October, to start the work. And the crew arrived, and that included a truck that, I guess, pumps the cellulose insulation into the attic space to up the level of insulation. And so the team started by laying down tarpaulins right over the stairs and the entryway. The team was neat in that they were respectful of all the furniture and where they had to access the attic. We have 2 attics in the house. Both of them were short of insulation, put it that way, in that they only had a couple of inches of insulation. And today's modern standards, I believe, are 12 inches or more equivalent insulation in the attic. in order to make sure that there's minimal heat loss. So it came the day to start the work, and the first thing that the crew did was crawl into the attic space, right, and locate the areas that needed to be sealed up. This type of rigid foam insulation, and so that was put over areas that had never been insulated, like the stairway up from the first floor to the second floor in our split level. It seems that there had been heat escaping through the sheetrock for years from certain areas above the stairs that needed to be addressed. So that was the first day, I think. So that led to pumping in an insulation, which is a cellulose insulation. It's sort of it's treated with a flame retardant, I believe, so that there's no risk of ignition or fire from insulation. So that once they started pumping that in, there was one of the crew would be out by the truck feeding the insulation into this machine that then aerates it, I guess, and makes it light and blows that through this hose, which stretched from the truck into the attic. That was a continuous process because it takes a long time to move that much insulation. In the one attic space, I think, was about 20 by 40, right? And so you're putting in insulation that's 8 or 10 inches or 12 inches thick. That was interesting, a little bit noisy, but it was necessary to get it in, because when you put in cellulose into your attic space, you can blow it to where it's needed to the right level. After sealing up the attic spaces and putting in the insulation, it was time for the test to be done to determine what the reduction was. They did another blower door test and measured the difference, and it was substantial enough reduction in air infiltration and increase in insulation and sealing that passed meeting the utilities requirement to increase the insulation or reduce the heat loss and cooling loss in the house. All went smoothly. We filled out the paperwork necessary and concluded the job.